It's the match that no team really wants to play, but it has to be played, and there's a little bit more than pride at stake, especially considering today's opponents. It's the third and fourth place playoff of the Rugby World Cup in France 2023. The tournament's about to get over, but we still have this and another blockbuster match coming up. And as always, we're proud to bring it to you, and you are welcome. Yes, people, welcome along once again to the corner, and the title says it all. Argentina against England for the third place in the Rugby World Cup, live from the Stade de France. A Falkland Islands clash, never a really calm affair, always a case of handbags at dawn, shootout at the OK Corral, whatever have you. Even back in the days when Argentina were never as good then as they are now, those games were still very feisty, testy affairs. And kickoff, of course, will be in about 15 minutes from now, and coverage will be starting on my telly. I will give you some team news right now, starting with the Argentina 15. And I can tell you that there have been 3 changes made to the lineup. We see that this is, of course, from the semi-final against New Zealand, where the Argentinians were, of course, taught a lesson. And among the people coming in will be Jeronimo de la Fuente at centre alongside Mateo Carreras. Scrum half Thomas Kubeli, who had been dropped for the semi-final, returns. And another change is Pedro Rubiolo, who comes into the team as a second row alongside Guido Petty. Apart from that, pretty much all as it were. And the bench also remains the same. So it's the same 7 people, including Agustin Creevy and Nicolas Sanchez, along with Matthias Moroni and Rodrigo Bruni, among others, who will be coming on later on in the game. And those are the 3 changes that have been made. And confirmation, of course, of the subs. Yep, Creevy, Sanchez and company, all waiting to get their chance to come off the bench. As for England, they have made a whopping 8 changes to their starting lineup for this particular game. The most notable one, of course, is that of Ben Youngs, that scrum half, who will be playing his final match for England before retiring and continuing to play club rugby for Leicester. Sadly, there is no place in the starting lineup for Courtney Laws, who has also announced his retirement from international rugby. So sadly, his World Cup and international career has ended on a rather low note in the form of an agonizing defeat to the defending champions, South Africa. So the full lineup reads, at fullback, it'll be Marcus Smith, with Freddie Stewart moving from fullback to back on the side. Henry Arundel is recalled to the team. Joey Marchant and Manu Tulagi keep their places, as does Captain Owen Farrell. Some changes in the front row, of course. Ellis Genge comes into the team at loose head, with William Stewart at tight head and Theodore Dan as the hooker. Mario Toje and Oliver Chesham keep their Chesham actually does come into the team from the bench to take up his spot in the second row alongside Toje. Tom Curry is there at blindside. Sam Underhill gets a recall to the team at open side, with Dan Earl completing the lineup as the number 8. And some new faces on the bench as well. Some people who probably weren't able to get much involvement in the tournament, but here they are. Jamie George, of course, has been England's first choice hooker, but he drops to the bench. At backup loosehead prop, it's Bevan Rodd, with Dan Cole, of course, the experienced and redoubtable Dan Cole, who might possibly be staying on for a little bit, but I think he's also pretty much done his dash with regard to World Cups. It's amazing how many 30-somethings there are in the team, and I think most of them, or almost all of them, will probably have played their last World Cup this time around. David Ribbons is in the team as a backup second row. Lewis Ludlam will be back up to one of the back rows. Danny Kerr, of course, at scrum half, who is well into the 90s in terms of the number of caps that he's earned. I think it'll be his 97th cap tonight. He could possibly earn his 100th cap for England during the Six Nations and then maybe call it quits. I don't know. Maybe he sees himself as having a bit of a role to play to guide Alex Mitchell and Jack Van Putvliet with Ben Youngs, of course, retiring. And they are, of course, showing the lineups on TV. George Ford, of course, back up to the fly halves or centres. And Ollie Lawrence will back up one of the backs. So clearly this particular match has the hint of a sort of a farewell or a swan song about it, because several players on this, in the 22s of both teams will probably be playing their last international games. You have to think that for the likes of Creevy and maybe Sanchez and maybe perhaps Montoya for Argentina, and definitely Youngs and others for England, there will be a great deal of I'm sort of tongue-tied at the moment, but there is a great deal of emotion involved. Emiliano Buffelli, the number 14, is always going to be a key player for Argentina. One of the real driving forces in that team alongside Montoya. And Michael Shaker, who, of course, coached Australia to the final in 2015, only to lose to New Zealand, will be taking part in another Rugby World Cup semi-final. So at least, unlike his fellow Aussie Eddie Jones, there is an Aussie involved in the semi-finals. An Aussie coach has made it this far. And you can see the England fans at the Stade de France standing up in full voice. You see the England players coming in. Owen Farrell, of course, looking very serious indeed, and several others. You do have to feel for a guy like Jack Van Putvliet, who, of course, has been affected with injury. Otherwise, he probably would have made an even bigger involvement in this tournament. But it was good to see certainly the likes of Danny Kerr be given a lot more responsibility. And there is the coach, Steve Borthwick, who has certainly rejuvenated and revived the fortunes of the England team, which were at a very low ebb when Eddie Jones was sacked. So confirmation of the front row, Genge, Dan and Stewart. Genge, of course, winning his 58th cap tonight, with Theo Dan at hooker winning only his 7th. So big occasion for him, the youngster, at age 22. I'm sure he would have loved to have been involved in the final, even if it was as a backup, but he has a chance to impress. Itoje winning cap number 76 tonight. Cap number 50 for Tom Curry, alongside Ben, Earl and Underhill in the back row. Sam Underhill, of course, getting a chance to shine, and you think that alongside Earl and Curry, they will all have, he will certainly have a big role to play going on. Cap number 127 for Ben Youngs, 127 and out. 112 for Owen Farrell. Will he stick around for the next World Cup, by which point he'll be 36? Remains to be seen. Manu Tulagi earning cap number 59 tonight, age 32. Joey Marchant, 27, definitely going to be involved in England's future plans. Marcus Smith back into the team alongside Stewart and Arundel. And these three at 24, 22 and 20 will certainly have a great deal of involvement. And there is the bench, of course. Certainly well worth looking out for. Well, we're at the toss right now. We'll find out what's taking place. Right, so news from the sidelines is that Owen Farrell has won the toss and has opted to kick. So the Argentinian captain, Julian Montoya, has opted to choose a direction in which they will be attacking. And I believe If my hearing serves me right, he said they will be attacking from right to left. And we see the players in the changing rooms. Michael Shaker, of course, having done a brilliant job with this Argentinian team, taking them this far. This is where effectively the journey of the Pumas comes to an end with an impressive third Rugby World Cup semi-final. They've certainly evolved from the days when they were also Rans at the time. And with England, they were dreaming of a record fifth World Cup final. Instead, it's a second, third, and fourth place playoff that they get. They lost their previous one in 1995 to France after being mauled by New Zealand. And Joe Marler with a warm embrace. He's not going to be involved tonight, and I wonder if his international days could also be done and dusted, having announced his own retirement long before the 2019 World Cup and being persuaded to come back, and now being a big part of England's progress since then. Farrell shaking hands with two of the, I don't want to say mascots, but certainly some of the representatives, and a nice gesture by Owen Farrell to let Tom Curry stand in front of him. Of course, as mentioned, he is winning his 50th cap tonight, and it will be very interesting to see how Ben Youngs performs tonight. A fantastic servant for England rugby. Hasn't really been given much playing time in this tournament at all. Hasn't had any playing time, in fact, with Alex Mitchell, Danny Kerr, and Van Poortvliet ahead of him in the pecking order. But yep, a lovely little tradition where people earning a certain cap milestone get to run out onto the field, and this is what Tom Curry is doing right now. Now, there have had, of course, been some team news shared about the final. New Zealand making what is more or less an expected change, really, with Brodie Retallick coming back into the side in place of the world's most, New Zealand's most capped international ever, Sam Whitelock. I'm not too sure he'll be able to break Alan Wynne-Jones's record of 158 caps for Wales, in addition to 12 Lions caps. But Whitelock has been a fantastic servant to New Zealand rugby, a magnificent servant, it must be said. Certainly played his role against Argentina to perfection, but Ian Foster making the decision that Retallick's quickness and mobility will serve as an advantage, but Whitelock will surely, you would imagine, get a run out in the final for tomorrow. And South Africa have made some very controversial, surprising changes themselves, but probably expected, I would say. Time for the anthems now, and we will be muting our, I'll be muting myself to make sure I listen to them. Himno Nacional Argentina and God Save the King. For the last time in this tournament, we are hearing both national anthems. And I stand corrected. Apparently, on our television screens, in fact, England will be playing from right to left. So the captain, Montoya, has opted to attack from the left to right of our television screens from the looks of it. So we'll just have some confirmation of that later on. And both teams, of course, coming through contrasting semi-finals. Argentina being given a rugby lesson, if there ever were one available. And England, of course, being pipped to the post in the most heartbreaking of fashions by a resurgent South Africa team, who probably might end up starting the final as the underdogs. Confirmation, of course, of the starting 11. 3 changes to the side. De La Fuente, Cubelli, and Rubiolo coming in. And the bench is as it were. As for England, as far as England are concerned, 8 changes to the side. Smith, Arundel, Genge, Dan, Stewart, Chesham, Underhill, and of course the retiring Ben Youngs. And on the subs bench, look out for the number 17 Rod and the number 19 Ribbons, who could possibly make their first involvements in this tournament, along with the number 20 Ludlam. And we are almost about to get underway. Owen Farrell, of course, having opted to kick off, will start almost about now. And of course, the ticker is on. Do like the video and subscribe to the channel and follow Hanno on all his social media networks. Nick Berry from Australia, the referee. Georgia, Ireland, and Wales, assistant and TMO colleagues. Assistants and TMO colleagues. So hopefully we should be in for a very orderly evening. Farrell just kicks off, and Argentina lose the. I thought they had lost it, but they do actually manage to retain the ball, and it is sort of kicked forward, hoping to kick that into touch, but ends up inadvertently going the other side, and that is, of course, kicked high forward, but that should be claimed very easily, and Argentina do that with no fuss at all. Michael Shaker, of course, the head coach, the Aussie. Wonderful to see him singing along to the Argentinian anthem, and certainly not something you'd expect, but it is indeed a nice trend. And of course, that kick was never going to go into touch. Neither, of course, was that. So a little bit of back and forth kicking at the moment. And we're going to see right now who gets this one. A contestable ball, which should be claimed by Argentina very easily. And it is, of course, Santi Carreras, the fly half, who claims that very well. That is Cubelli, the scrum half, who comes into the team. One of 3 changes that Argentina have made. And Argentina now into a huge ruck. Still not quite able to release it yet. And it is, of course, now going to be a penalty to England because Argentina were unable to. Well, is it a penalty for England? We're going to find out. Yeah, it is a penalty because they've got the ball, and Nick Berry signaling that Argentina failed to release the ball in time. And it wasn't quite easy, of course, when you're in a ruck and you have a lot of people trying to take the ball from you. So with 2 minutes on having already elapsed, England have a chance to kick to get into a 3-0 lead. Captain Farrell with his first kick of the match. His father, Andrew, of course, was and still is coach of the Irish team that lost an absolute heartbreak of a quarterfinal against New Zealand. And should be a fairly straightforward kick. I mean, we've seen more straightforward kicks being missed in this tournament, but for someone of Farrell's class, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And it isn't. So, in this 3rd and 4th place playoff in the match for third place. England have gone 3 ahead. England, of course, doing what they do best, forcing Argentina to making a few mistakes. And that kick is, of course, sent ahead by Santi Carreras, but easily claimed. And it is the retiring Ben Youngs who claims that and sends England on its way. Dan Earl going to ground in a ruck. Youngs releasing it. And that is, of course, Theodore Dan, the hooker who comes into the side today in place of Jamie George. Some good footwork by Youngs, and then a nice hooked kick high up. But Malia claims that perfectly. Kubeli. And certainly didn't look as though there was a knock-on, but here's the penalty to England. Well, it is a knock-on, actually. It's because it's like if you aren't able to catch the ball cleanly, that ends up bobbling off your fingers, and that is, of course, counted as a knock-on. A harsh decision in some respects, but it is the law, and the letter of the law has got to be applied. And England, of course, slightly outweighing the Argentinian pack to the tune of 9 kilograms. Obviously, Joe Marler and Dan Cole and Jamie George were expected to try and destroy the South African scrum, and it did work a treat, but then the bomb squad came on, and the rest is history. Ben Youngs feeding it through, and it goes straight through. Brilliantly done. Not the best of passes from the scrum half, but Farrell claims that easily enough. And is he able to send that into touch? No, not quite. It just drops inside. And that kick is sent into touch. I do believe that is Malia who was able to get to that. I do recognize the 5 on the back of his jersey. Yep. Hanno will be joining us very soon to offer his analysis of the match, but at the moment it's Theodore Dan with a line out. Easily won by Chesham, and England are on their way through Farrell and Tulagi. Youngs releasing it. England once again going to ground and making some inroads into the Argentinian territory, and there are men available on the wing, but an attempted kick forward is easily dealt with and sent into touch. This time it's Santi Carreras who saves Argentina's blushes. Huge tackle put in there by the incoming De La Fuente, who's in the team, of course. And it is Theodore Dan who has the responsibility of marshalling England's line out again. He's already won one. Can he win another? Yes, he can. And we're now into a maul. It's not exactly a driving maul. It's sort of going along the side with Argentina holding firm, but England still having the ball. Young's trying to get it away and still can't quite get it. And it now goes into a ruck, and eventually Youngs releases it. And of course, if it were a driving maul, it would have went all the way forward. But Argentina pushing back hard and preventing England from gaining any yardage. Theodore Dan moving forward quite brilliantly. Excellent ball carrying there from the young man. And should be an easy try for Dan Earl, and it is. So first try of the evening, and England, having already shown some of their superiority, have now pretty much run themselves into a fairly early lead. Once again, some terrific ball carrying from England, and that was, of course, Stewart there, the tight head prop who had played his part by carrying the ball and going to ground. Marcus Smith with the sharp, incisive pass to Dan Earl, who did the rest and touched the ball down just beyond the line. And you can see the England fans in the stadium absolutely delighted. And now to the conversion at the 22-yard line. It's a little bit skewed, a bit slightly too wide for Farrell's liking, but not that wide. And he should possibly be able to nail this conversion, I would say. And he does, but
only... Argentina fan. Hey.
Well, you're South African, so I don't see you really being too worried about that, given that your team is going to play tomorrow. But yeah, Argentina once again, as much as they've made some good progress, I think they still don't quite have the rugby nows to be able to compete against the top teams. But how's your throat, bud?
Yeah, better, getting better.
Huge,
I was
all taking place.
To be a bit more fired up for this match.
Yeah, but now we see a huge driving maul taking place with England, and Young's getting the ball and hooking that high in the air, and Boffelli, one of Argentina's standout players in the tournament, claiming that well, and Cubelli releasing that, and certainly Argentina trying their best to sort of stay in the game, but not really able to make too many inroads into the England half. A nice little game of kickball being played right now. Farrell, of course, now obliging with a fourth one in succession. And they eventually claimed at the very end. Mateo Carreras now going to ground, and Cubelli trying his best to get it and release it, and he does so eventually. And it is Rubiolo, who's also one of Argentina's three changes for today coming in. And more and more work done by Argentina to try and get out of their own half. But England's defense once again holding firm. And, if we take a look at the England-South Africa semi-final, I think you did say it best. When England took off their first choice front row as the ball is sent into touch for a line-out, I think they lost quite a bit of the impetus, and the replacements just weren't able to deal with the full force of the bomb squad.
Yeah, no, it was just a case of the subs for England couldn't do what the Saudis did. So yeah.
One exception, of course, being Danny Kerr, who definitely did try his best, and whose performance against Samoa has been voted the third best clutch performance in the World Cup, behind South Africa's subs in the semi-final, and of course New Zealand's defence in the quarter-final. But we see Will Stewart, the tight head prop, coming in place of Dan Cole, taking a little bit of a knock. And England have obviously opted to start a large number of youngsters in their team who will be around for the next World Cup cycle. And this is a good test for them. And England winning that line out. And it is, of course, Ellis Genge with the ball, making some great carry. And England do eventually get the ball back. Marcus Smith to Joe Marchant, who is one of many youngsters who should be a part of England's future under Borthwick, and going to ground as well. A huge ruck, but England still can't quite release it yet. Are they eventually able to? Yes, they are. And a nice little hook kick forward. Awkward bounce there, but Ben Youngs' kick is easily claimed. And Nick Berry, the Aussie referee, stopping play, possibly to award a penalty. And that's penalty to Argentina. So England obviously going to be fielding a much changed team, a much younger team in the upcoming Six Nations. I would dare say the future is bright, but they will need to improve a little bit on some of their rugby nows. And we will obviously talk a little bit about at halftime about the changes made by New Zealand and South Africa for the final, but I'm sure you will have a lot to say about what Jacques has done. shock has sprung up a few shocks.
Yeah, yes. But
Yeah,
yeah, we,
we'll talk.
we'll discuss that at half time. But this
Nah.
game, I knew England were going to kick a
It,
lot.
actually, it is in fact a penalty to England, not Argentina. I stand corrected, and so Farrell has a chance to kick England 13 ahead, with Argentina still yet to score. So we'll see if he's able to do this right now. And his still no mistake from the captain. You were saying, by the way,
No,
Hanno.
I was expecting Argentina to be more fired up and give England a proper test, but they haven't turned up again. 13-0 already. Game's pretty much done already, you can say. Um, but never know.
You're jumping the gun a bit because, let's not forget that in rugby, a game is never done. You know that very well yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Huge driving maul now from England, trying to gain some yardage, and Young's trying to get the ball, and he does. And it is hooked high into the air, but easily claimed by Buffelli, who also
Someone
gains a little bit of yardage.
to
Kubeli as
smash
well.
it back with an ant.
Santi Carreras. And a nice high kick, certainly contestable, but it should be claimed by England. Actually, it's claimed by Argentina. Brilliantly done indeed. And Argentina can try and make some inroads now into the England defence going forward. Some brilliant play indeed. Kubeli releasing it all the way to Santi Carreras, all the way to De La Fuente. And a lot of rough play going on, and Nick Berry having to sort of calm proceedings down a little bit. And Argentina do, in fact, have the ball. And just beyond the halfway line, it looks as though they might want to try and kick it into touch. We'll see what happens.
They should go to touch, really.
And Santi Carreras agrees with you, and he kicks it right into touch, not too far from England's 5-yard line. So,
Come on.
obviously, Gallo there, the Argentinian loose head prop, Thomas Gallo, trying to send England to the gallows, but not quite yet. And now we see Julian Montoya leading a line out, won quite easily, and Kubeli now releasing it. And it is the number 7, Kramer, who was able to go to ground, make some yardage. Buffelli now, certainly buffering his way through. Kubeli doing a good job with some yardage there, releasing the ball quite brilliantly. Thomas Gallo still has the ball, and Kubeli as well. Rubiolo also going to ground. And it's wonderful to see how, they're just sort of picking the ball away from the ruck like that. This time, Santi Carreras there, sending a kick a little bit too long, and the attack goes begging. So obviously the intended forward pass to Buffelli didn't quite work out that well. And it is, however, a penalty against England for offside. Yeah. So it could very well be that Argentina might decide to continue their pressing and make this attack really count. And I'm sure you'll be quite happy with the way Argentina played right now. What stood out for you in that sequence of play?
I think, they're carrying the ball hard. They're taking the game to England, which is what you want from this Argentina side. And going for a scrum, see if that pays off. So yeah. But Manny, I will join you in a bit. Again, I just quickly need to go do something. Then I will be joining you later again.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. Take your time. And it is, of course, Kubeli now at scrum half, who will be leading the scrum, and that one doesn't quite go to plan. Not bound effectively, but Thomas Kubeli will have another chance. And you can see Oliver Chesham's face turning bright red. Starting to feel the heat, maybe, at the Stade de France. So Kubeli feeds the ball through, not too far from England's 5-yard line. And eventually, the scrum is effectively destroyed by England, forcing a knock-on from Argentina. So that attack goes begging. And all Argentina can do is just look and see. I mean, I don't know if they can see, but all they can do is just stand in their shoes and their shorts and their shirts and realize that that was an opportunity gone begging. But you could see there the penalty being incurred. The scrum, I mean, the props basically using their slight advantage in weight to destroy that attack. And what was a South African scrum will now become an England scrum, with Ben Youngs about to feed it into the pack. And it is eventually Dan Earl who was able to get the ball away and pass it back. Joe Marchant being brought to ground and tackled. Mario Itoje going to ground. And Ben Youngs coming in once again and doing what he has to do to try to release the ball. And he does. And is he able to get kicked out into touch? No, he isn't. Just beyond the halfway line, Argentina are able to reclaim that. A nice contestable ball forward, claimed brilliantly by Buffelli, despite the best attempts of Marcus Smith. And Argentina once again pushing forward. Buffelli once again having a stormer of a game for Argentina. Easily his team's standout player. Kubeli. And that is yet again another knock-on. Argentina's poor handling of the ball will really be what costs them in this game. Marcus Kremer there with the infraction. And effectively, dropped, fell forward, fell onto it, and that is, of course, a knock-on. And Marcus Kremer with his beard there, the anguish on his face says it all. Buffelli there once again with a brilliant, brilliant claim, evading Marcus Smith's best intentions. Emiliano Buffelli there, as I said, Argentina's standout player in this tournament. And that's 3 handling errors that Argentina have made to England's none. So you can see that there's still quite a lot to work on with this team as they move forward. But nobody can deny that they have certainly been impressive in the tournament and have certainly continued their impressive evolution into a top quality rugby team. Maybe not quite at the level of other Southern Hemisphere sides like New Zealand and South Africa, but definitely right up there. And Farrell opts to kick that all the way forward. Does that go into touch? No chance. Buffelli claims that well, and he sends it forward. And that also should be claimed easily. And Marcus Smith claiming it and immediately putting his arm up. And so we are into the 22nd minute of the first half. And Smith opts to kick that into touch. And because that wasn't continued quickly enough by Buffelli, that will be a line out. So the Red Roses are in full bloom, but the Pumas are still on the prowl. Julian Montoya once again with a line out. Not quite easily won, but we are into a maul, and it is could potentially be a driving maul with Argentina gaining a little bit of yardage. And some great play there from Argentina, moving the ball forward and gaining some yardage indeed. Thomas Kubeli. And Argentina going to ground, still continuing. Kubeli once again. But England's defence responding with a fine series of tackling of their own. Kubeli. Santi Carrera sending that high. And that should be claimed by Marcus Smith, and it is. Freddie Stewart started the semi-final as full-back, but has now been moved out to the side. And now we already see the handbags at dawn taking place. And Marcos Kramer shedding quite a bit of blood. Will certainly have to come off the field to get himself treated, and also I'm pretty certain that he will still be allowed to play with a blooded jersey, but not with a bloodied forehead. And one would think that there will be a blood replacement being brought on very quickly. Rodrigo Bruni would be expected to come on. And you can see Rubiolo being raised high into the air and brought down to ground. And so Argentina have a penalty of their own, a chance to reduce the deficit from 13 to 10. Should be a straightforward kick for Buffelli, really. I am, of course, editing it in the expectation that he will, in fact, win. And Kramer's back on the field, having had the bleeding stopped and some cream applied to his head. And a straightforward penalty kick between the posts by Buffelli. And that is Argentina's first success in this match. They are now on the board. I think the penalty probably would have been awarded for a case of being off feet when coming into the ruck. And so Farrell kicks it off, and that is easily claimed, this time by Argentina's number 8, Isa. And once again, we have a series of rucks where Argentina are going to try their best to take it out of their own half. Kubeli once again using his feet and then kicking that high. Does that go into touch? Yes, it does. Freddie Stewart, of course, had caught the ball and could have continued with the play, but instead opted for a line out. And so it is, of course, an England line out. Theodore Dan to take this. Barely won by Argentina, but it's a penalty to England. I'm going to find out why as we come up to the 25-minute mark in the first half. And Farrell ends up kicking it high in the air as opposed to kicking it into touch. And that should be Well, it isn't claimed, and after bouncing out of Argentinian hands, it's claimed by Manu Trilagi. Ben Youngs to Itoje. And England have a chance to really hammer it in. Theodore Dan going to ground. Dan Earl being pushed back in the way. Still can't quite release the ball just yet, but eventually he does. And Youngs is able to take that forward. A nice little kick there, but well defended in the way. And also kicked into touch quite nicely. So Malia there showing some pretty decent footballing skills as well. That is association football, not rugby football. And you can see right now that the Argentinians are able to provide a great deal of strength and certainly try to stop England from truly going too far forward. And that is brilliantly claimed, in fact, by the number 6, Gonzalez, who takes the ball forward. So brilliant stuff there from the Argentinians. Marcos Kremer now. If only they can avoid making another handling error, they could find themselves close to England's score. But eventually not a knock-on, and Gonzalez reclaims the ball well. Brilliant piece of play from the blindside flanker. Sadly, though, due to some relentless England tackling, that is sent into touch. So Theodore Dan rising high and performing the steal to perfection quite brilliantly. Despite the intentions of Oliver Chesham there. I think it's fair to say that if a game of chess was being played, Chesham lost that game. And Theodore Dan getting some treatment. You see Mario Itoje also being attended to. Could be a problem with his knee, potentially. Not a good sight to see. But hopefully both of those boys will be well recovered and ready to continue playing. Well, certainly Nick Berry giving both sides a talking to. And I don't think we've really seen the handbags adorned. That is, of course, the trademark of most of these Argentina-England games. But certainly in many ways, this has been a pretty feisty encounter, one might say. It is an Argentina scrum right now. And Kubeli will try to feed it through once everyone is bound. And the scrum has collapsed, but some excellent work by the number 8, Issa, ensures that the ball is in fact released. Kramer this time, but loses the ball, and some good work from Dan Earl means that Owen Farrell has the ball back. Good ball control from England, well maintained, but some good footballing skills from Malia there, and that could perhaps be a knock-on. Actually, it isn't a knock-on. I believe Berry has signalled that England will continue to receive the play. Good intervention there from Malia, by the way. And Kramer once again bleeding profusely, and offside is the call from Nick Berry. So Owen Farrell once again has a chance to kick England further ahead. Yeah, some good tackling meant that Marcos Kremer lost the ball. A combination of Tom Curry and Underhill pretty much putting him under them. And a straightforward kick, really, for Owen Farrell. Meat and drink for the England captain. So that should restore England's 13-point advantage. And as we approach the half an hour mark, England are now 13 ahead, 16-3. 10 minutes to go until the end of the first half, and we might see Hanno back for a little half-time analysis. At the moment, it is Santiago Carreras who kicks that forward. A contestable ball, which should be won quite easily by Freddie Stewart, and it is. And Ben Young's being forced to hold on to the ball, and will now have to try and release it as England go into a ruck of their own, with Dan Earl standing over there, ready to perform his scrum half duties. Releases the ball to Will Stewart, who goes to ground. And Ben Youngs recovers with a muddied jersey to resume his duties, and he kicks that high in the air. Santi Carreras rises to claim that. Expertly, one must be said. I mean, it must be said, rather. And Argentina continuing their play at the moment. Another contestable kick, which should be won by England, and it is. Youngs releasing it to Stewart, who goes to ground. Youngs again, this time to Marcus Smith, who sends it to Tulagi. And Nick Berry stops the play. Should be a penalty to England. And it is. And I think the infringement here is being off feet. As Hanno's made it very clear, you've got to make sure you are on balance and not really off your feet at any time. Sounds a bit of a harsh call, really, because especially if you're sort of forced off your feet, it's not very easy. And Mike Shaker there with his head in his hands, wondering what could possibly be going wrong. An Australian coach, of course, would love to secure a win over England, but it's not looking likely at the moment. A huge line-out claim by Mario Toge, but we see them all, and Argentina pushing England back. But England do manage to release it well enough. It is Ellis Genge who goes to ground. Young's releasing it to Farrell, who tries to send it forward. And Argentina, no, they don't reclaim the ball. It is back with Tulagi. The awkward bounce there really hurting everyone. Underhill going under. Stewart again, trying to move forward, but being pushed back. Youngs, Smith, Stewart. Stewart loses the ball, and Argentina do kick it away. And in fact, they are awarded a penalty. The infringement is, of course, coming in at the side. You do not do that. And Carreras is able to. Well, he's not. He wanted to send it into touch, but couldn't quite do so. And Smith ends up claiming it and sending it into touch himself. Anything you couldn't do, I just did. And an excellent sliding tackle there, really, soccer style from Montoya. Clearly, of trying to take a leaf from their world champion counterparts in the association football sense of the word. And Montoya has the ball and goes to ground, gaining some good yardage in the process, just beyond the halfway line. And Argentina now trying to punch a hole in the England defence and moving forward and doing so quite well indeed. Malia receiving the ball and running quite beautifully. Excellent pass to Buffelli there, who can certainly gain some good ground. Kubeli once again to Santi Carreras. De La Fuente to Mateo Carreras. Kubeli once again, this time to Cinti. And Argentina running quite magnificently with the ball. Kubeli again, this time to Thomas Gallo, who goes forward quite brilliantly. And Argentina, this clearly has been the best sequence of play for the Argentinians. And if they can score a try this close to the first half, that would be a real shot in the arm, and they do. Brilliant stuff from the Argentinians, it must be said. A wonderful sequence of play there from the Pumas, which halves the deficit halves the deficit from. I mean, it doesn't halve the deficit, but it does change it from 13 to 8. And Thomas Kubeli continuing some brilliant work on his recall to the team. This time, Argentina learning from their mistakes and showing some terrific ball carrying and running skills. Malia and Buffelli, they're outstanding on that side. And you can see almost looked like a forward pass there from Cinti, but eventually that was in fact allowed to go through. And so Buffelli has a chance to get Argentina score to double figures, putting them 2 penalties behind England. And effectively, if they do score another converted try, they will in fact assume the lead. 4 minutes to go in the first half. An absolute dolly of a penalty, which should be easily converted, and it is. And so the Pumas are striking back. Touching down quite perfectly, just slightly beyond the line, and that is deemed perfect. Thomas Kubeli with the fire in his belly. I had to say that. And Mateo Carreras there, claiming the ball quite well, going to ground. And Argentina now have the bit between their teeth, one would think. Marcos Kremer, who shed blood twice for the cause, now sees his team with a pretty good chance of, giving England a great deal of trouble. It was all England up till now, but Argentina have fought back and fought back hard. Freddie Stewart with a fine kick, but lost by Argentina, and now that is brilliantly claimed by England, who go to ground. Sam Underhill. But it is going to be a penalty against Argentina for the knock-on. Kubeli there going from hero to villain by not being able to claim that perfectly. Oliver Chesham snapping that up and saying thank you very much indeed, mate. And it will be an England scrum with Ben Youngs to orchestrate it. 2.5 minutes to go before half-time. And I'll take a look at some of your comments right now. Yeah. Another reminder from Chelsea fan, do please keep hitting the like button and sub to the channel. Daz in the chat, big up to you, mate. We're all good. Thank you very much indeed for joining us as always. Big up Daz, big up Chelsea fan. And now Youngs feeds it inside and he's able to, release it. And England once again with some short, sharp passing and running, trying to make some inroads, and they do so quite well. Argentina's defense still holding firm for the most part, pushing England slightly back. But Australia still able to keep the engine rolling. Youngs, of course, doing his bit. And Marcus Smith now selling Argentina a dummy. quite beautifully. And that is, of course, knocked out of English hands, but I do believe that might also be considered a knock-on. And so England have a penalty, and you can see the disappointment right there in Buffelli's eyes, because he knew that he had a chance to try and release some pressure. And we're into the last minute of the half, and England might decide to either use a scrum to take it further forward. Oliver Chesham, they're losing the ball, but the knock-on, of course, putting paid to Argentina's chances. And Marcus Smith knows how lucky he is to have seen that go England's way. Not having the best of times on his return to the team. Beautiful piece of play there, selling Argentina the dummy, but apart from that, he's been, one might say, a little bit erratic. And so the clock is about to wind down, but this play will be allowed to continue until it stops. So an England scrum, which should be the last action of the half. And Shush obviously rooting for Argentina. Take the ball out, Issa. What were you doing over there? And eventually England releasing the ball. Youngs to Farrell, to Smith, who goes to ground. Youngs once again, this time to Itoje, who is impeded in his tracks. Not able to take the ball forward, but Young still has it. Eventually it is released, of course, by Tom Curry, but this one's well claimed by Malia. And Smith once again a little bit frustrated, and that is, of course, the end of the first half, with England having, of course, dominated proceedings, but losing a little bit of concentration near the end. And conversion to show for their efforts belatedly. It is, of course, Argentina 10, England 6. And now back to the comments. Yeah, a little friendly exchange between Chelsea fan and Daj, and welcome to the stream for Shush. Yep, you've said it perfectly. Handling errors are costing them. And I'm not too sure which play summed up Argentina's tournament. You'll have to sort of be specific, and also admitting that the pass from Cinti was in fact forward, but nobody cares about that. It was England who kicked off, Daz, because they won the toss and Farrell opted to kick off, and Argentina, of course, are attacking from left to right on our TV screens. Highlights now from the Argentina-New Zealand semi-final. Sam Whitelock using his height and size to pretty much bully the Argentinians there. Just getting through the last of the comments, but you know, England is still ahead. But I'll tell you what, Argentina have come back into this, haven't they?
They have definitely, and like Shush says, I also think that brought us forward. In the build up to that Argentina try. But who cares? Los Pumas all the way. Los Pumas all the way. Look,
Yeah,
England.
I am surprised that the TMO didn't even bother to look at that and check that, because that would certainly have been disallowed. I think it's fair to say that maybe the officials were taking pity on the Pumas, but that's certainly not the way Argentina would have wanted to score. But I know that they're not going to look a gift horse in its mouth. But we see the same problem with England. They dominate play for the most part. They certainly look to be doing everything right. But then somehow they take their foot off the pedal and allow the opposition back in. And before you know it, what should have been an easy, dominant first half has become a lot tighter. What more can you say?
I think it's down to that, but also they look really tired. It's OJ. It looks knackered. Ben Earl haven't to name much really. Um,
No, Earl, I think, has been outstanding. It's Tom Curry who's been a little bit anonymous to me.
Yeah, he's been anonymous. Sam Underilu came in. He has had a great game. Farrell has taken some hard hits there. Um, so it's a tough one. They look tired. England, will they be able to keep going for the full 80? Argentina, they they look decent. When they run with the ball and don't make silly errors, handling errors. When they don't make a silly mistake, they are actually such a good side. But they make so many silly mistakes, it's not even true. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's fair to say that Mike Shaker, the Aussie, has done a brilliant job with this team so far. So he could end up staying beyond this tournament, and of course, with several players into their 30s, having earned several caps, I'm not too sure they'll be involved in the next cycle. So this is a good opportunity for Argentina to build on this momentum. As with England, who have several 30-somethings in their team, Young's, of course, playing his last game for England before retiring. Courtney Law's not even picked for the 22, having already announced his retirement. And several others simply won't be involved. But now, of course, we go to the meat of our halftime discussion, and it's the upcoming final. I did mention Retallick coming in for Whitelock as more or less expected, and you did say that Retallick coming in would give you some concern. But you wonder how far fall it has been for the likes of Manny Libbok and Kobus Reinach to go from starting the last few games to not even being picked for the 22 for the final. I did remember saying that Handry Pollard and Francois de Klerk should be picked to start the final because obviously when they came on, everything was calmed down quite wonderfully. But for Libbok and Reinach, I mean, absolute chokers. And I wonder what Nienaber is thinking. A few shocks to the system there. There's no Vincent Koch on the bench either. The bomb squad has a new member.
he's injured.
Oh.
That's or isn't fit enough. Um, so yeah. Um, but I expected it. Really. It was always a case of is he going to take two backs or one back on the bench? But I never expected them to start. So yeah. I am surprised to see no Kana Moody. Um, but yeah. Because he's very versatile. But really, they can give us that that experience off the bench, and I love him. But some games, I think he's past it. But yeah. Nah, look, we played like that when we beat them at Chickenham 35-7. They highest ever lost in terms of margin. So yeah.
And I think the reason why Ian Foster has made it clear that he won't be continuing his job after this is because he probably can't handle the criticism anymore. And credit to him, of course, for doing a good job turning things around along with Sam Kane and Ardi Surveyor, who could emulate his brother Julian Surveyor in being a World Cup winner. Julian, of course, won in 2015. And although he's 33 years old, he hasn't been a part of the All Black setup for quite some time now. But Surveyor is, of course, the New Zealand vice captain. So obviously, those two changes for South Africa were big ones, and the bench looks very different indeed. Are you hoping that the newcomers on the bench will provide the same effect as the normal bomb squad would?
Yeah, I think it's more or less the same. It's just John Klein, Trevor Nakane, and Visa. What else is there? Visa. Yeah, but look, I think they should still have the same impact. And um, look, John Klein, it gives us height. If Whitelock does come on, it can't compete against him. So yeah, I'm very happy with the team. It's just I would have loved to see Kane and Moody in the 23 because it does give us versatility in terms of um he can play outside center, he can play wing, and when if he plays wing, we can shift someone like a Kirtley Oranser to the number 15 position where he has played.
Right, 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 right. And yeah. So now, of course, back to England, Argentina, and I am watching highlights of that South Africa England semi-final. Absolute choker, of course, for the Red Roses, but the Springboks doing their bit and making sure that they went forward. And I did mention, of course, Borthwick's decision to take off the front row, who had done a brilliant job standing up to South Africa's. I just think it's fair to say that that sort of tactical naivety is what costs a lot of inexperienced coaches, but Borthwick will be all the wiser for it. And hopefully England should be in good hands with him. As for South Africa, will Ninaba stay on, or will it be a case of another coach coming in?
I think it will be both. I think Ninaba needs to make the right decisions, but the players also need to assess the situation really and know what to do when to push his accelerator, and when not to. So I
No,
think
but
it's a good.
no, the question was after the tournament, does Ninaba stay on?
Oh no, that's already been confirmed. It's not going to.
So who's your
Emmanuel.
replacement?
I don't really know. Um, Honestly, I don't know. Maybe Jake White, but then again,
Jake White. That would be a big call. Winner in
I honestly I
2007,
don't know
of course.
because honestly, there isn't really a big coach there. John Dobson. Mm, uh, no, like John Dobson is a good coach, but Springbok coach doesn't sound right. Um, so I don't know who will take over. Um, Probably one of the assistant coaches might take over.
Hmm.
So yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. And now, of course, we're coming up to this. I'm coming up to this play over here, which effectively cost England their spot in the final. But England, of course, are now playing here. You did mention that the likes of Itoje and Tulagi are starting to tire a little bit. Certainly, if Itoje tires, then someone like a David Ribbons will be expected to come on and have some involvement in the match. Youngs has looked really good, but he might also be brought off for Danny Kerr. And certainly, there has to be an appearance for Georgie Ford in place of Farrell, because, as you said, if he's taken far too many heavy tackles, then he might need to come off. Any other replacements come to mind from England's point of view?
Um, I think Jamie George. He might come on. Um,
Definitely.
um,
Theodore
uh,
Dan's had a decent
um,
game, but not really been the best in terms of lineouts, I would say.
um, yeah. If you need, yeah, I think that would probably be that. And Ford, really.
Yeah, Ford, as I said. But
Yeah.
as you said, Itoje does look tired and might need a rest as well. And as far as Argentina are concerned, I certainly wouldn't mind taking a look at Rodrigo Bruni coming on for either Kramer or Issa. Kramer has played well, but taken far too many knocks and shed quite a bit of blood. Issa, as Shush has mentioned, has not really been the best in terms of his own handling of the ball. It's really hard to look at to find any Argentinian who's had necessarily a bad game. It's just a case of individual handling errors more than anything else, really. De La Fuente has been excellent in his call up, and I've certainly enjoyed, as usual, watching the likes of Buffelli and Malia and both the Carreras brothers. And I can't really think of anyone more that might possibly need to be changed. Maybe, Alemano coming on for either Petty or Rubiolo, but that's pretty much about it.
Yeah, nothing really else to change in the lineup. So, yeah.
Well, we are, of course, now back at the Stade de France for the start of the second half. And I'll just change the banner right now.
Yeah.
So I remember predicting that England would win by about 22 points, but I think that prediction could very well end up being in the mud unless they get their act together.
Yeah. But Manny, will probably join you later on towards the end of the second half. So,
whenever you can, Bud. Whenever you can. Not a problem. And as we can see, of course, Argentina came out fairly early and England, of course, now coming out onto the field themselves. No changes in the first half as far as we can tell. And these same boys now have the responsibility of trying to secure the bronze medal in the World Cup for their team. Argentina, of course, won the bronze medal in 2007. 2007, rather. But we are just about to get underway with Santiago Carreras expected to start proceedings. And he does, with a nice contestable kick deep into England's half, claimed well by Mario Itoje. And we are, in fact, now into a ruck. Itoje has to release the ball. Youngs is still very much in the picture. Youngs, of course, is England's most capped international with 127 caps for England. But he will end his international career without a World Cup winners' medal, unlike Jason Leonard, who will always and forever be England's first centurion. And when it comes to the Rugby World Cup, that third place finish in 2007 will still be their best. And could they possibly improve on that, though? Huge tackle there, but Malia reclaims the ball. And Argentina still relentlessly running hard. Some ferocious tackling from England there, though, as they try to prevent Argentina from getting too much in terms of yardage. And Gomez, of course, going to ground. But now Marcus Smith should claim that fairly well and hoping to try to kick that into touch, but instead only finds Mateo Carreras, who can certainly try and move forward. I did say that Marcus Smith has not exactly looked his best, and Ollie Lawrence might end up, being brought on for him. I don't think I was able to say that at half-time. Gomez going to ground. Kubeli releasing it. And Issa now going to ground. Once again, Santi Carreras there, trying to sell the dummy and move forward. Brilliant yardage there from Santi Carreras. He skips through the defense and goes through for a try. Brilliant start from the Argentinians. And now, The Argentinians are within 1 point of England, and if they convert this penalty, they will take the lead. Well, Santi, the Saint, releasing that ball. I mean, Kubeli releasing that ball beautifully, but a huge tackle there. And riding those tackles superbly, just moving from one way to another, getting the position spot on, and securing the easiest of conversions for Buffelli. No Englishman was able to get in his way, and that is quite frankly a brilliant piece of work there, and Buffelli doing the business. And now we could be in for a huge shock with Argentina taking the lead 17-16. Well, how does Borthwick respond to this? How does he respond? England started the first half magnificently, but the same failings of losing concentration and taking their foot off the pedal have come back to hurt them big time. And now it's the Pumas who have the bit between their teeth. Marcos Kremer there, holding the ball and going to ground. Kubeli. Charged down, though, by Theodore Dan, who crosses over, and England say, oh, no, you don't take the lead against us. An inspired piece of play there, and now this game has truly come to life. Well, just when, Pippi, we thought that Argentina would have had the bit between their teeth, Theodore Dan says, no chance, mate. Santi Carreras there with an attempted kick, but charged down magnificently by Dan, who was really running all the way towards him with an intent to try and prevent that from going further. The charge down was deemed legal, and he was able to claim the ball and move forward, and that is a fine, fine try. Excellent way for England to restore their 6-point advantage, but now they know they cannot afford to let their foot off the pedal again. And whoa. Typical England, sadly. I think you might have said that before that try. If we bottle this, good luck tomorrow in the cricket. And hoping that England won't bottle this, I think that try would have made you a rather happy chappy. Santi Carreras sending that all the way back, and this time Ben Earl is able to claim that quite well. Young sending that forward. Buffelli claims that well, and Argentina can run at the England defence. And Argentina will need to be careful that they don't lose the ball. They've certainly done some brilliant work so far in this first half. Issa going to ground and Kubeli hooking it forward. Facundo Issa. And Argentina losing the ball, and it is in fact a penalty to Argentina for an England knock-on, I think. No, can't be a penalty to... Young's there completely missing it, and yep, it is a penalty to Argentina for a knock-on, and now they start to bring in some of their replacements. It is, in fact, Rodrigo Bruni who will be coming on along with Matthias Moroni, and Moroni will be replacing Cinti, and Bruni will be coming on for Facundo Issa. A bit surprised he hasn't replaced Marcos Kremer, who has shed quite a bit of blood, but Kremer has obviously had a fine game so far. Cinti, of course, with that pass that looked forward for Argentina's first try, but obviously Argentina weren't going to complain. And Berry now speaking to both captains Montoya and Farrell. Montoya probably receiving a little bit more of that. And that kick there from Young's deemed to be a bit of a... Well, apparently the call, I stand corrected, is now in fact an England scrum with Young's having the ball in his hand. So after Young's had in fact missed it, it was a knock-on by Argentina. Scrum collapsed. Not a good sight to see. Thomas Gallo there, the huge loose head prop. Not exactly able to keep it together. And we have the England scrum again with Ben Youngs feeding the ball through. It's still stuck deep in, and Ben Earl might have to work to retrieve that, and he does. Straight to Manu Tulagi, who is brought to ground. Still in the England half, so they're not quite out of the woods yet. Itaje now going to ground, looks a little bit tired. Do Argentina have the ball back? No, they don't. Still with England, and Ben Youngs is able to tip that out and release it, and then... he doesn't release it, he sort of kicks it high, but Buffelli, beautiful stuff from the number 14, rising high once again. And now we see one of the substitutes with his shirt being tugged there. Can't really see the number. I think that was Bruni who came on. And Bruni, he went to ground. A sort of a shanked kick up in the air, which is in fact claimed by Arundel, but it is a penalty to Argentina. Now we're going to find out the infringement in a minute. So England have gone from dominating Argentina to now holding on for dear life. Henry Arundel basically shanking his kick and claiming it. And so rather surprisingly, Argentina have opted to kick for goal to decrease England's lead. Definitely been a good start to the second half. But if Buffelli nails this kick straight on, Argentina will be up to 20. And England's lead will be whittled down from 13 to 3. And that is beautifully guided through by Buffelli. And a scarcely believable scoreline. And now England bring on the bench players. We see the number 17, Bevan Rodd, and the number 18, Dan Cole, coming on. And Ben Youngs has done his dash. His final game for England is over and done with, and Danny Kerr comes on in his place. Tom Curry also comes off to be replaced by, I think, Lewis Ludlam. And nicely claimed by the number 4, Petty. Certainly nothing petty about that. And Marcos Kremer now with the ball going to ground. Kubeli releasing that. And confirmation of another the other substitutions. Bevan Rodd and Dan Cole coming on for Ellis Gange and Will Stewart, respectively. Well, actually, like Youngs is still on the field, so Youngs is still very much on, and it is and Danny Kerr has in fact come on to replace. I think I've got the subs completely wrong there. Well, this is one I won't get wrong. Kubeli has ended his involvement, and his replacement is the number 21, Lautaro Bazan Velez, the replacement scrum half. I'll just confirm everything right now on the BBC and find out the substitutions that have been made. And now, of course, we see Ben Youngs coming off to be replaced by fellow veteran Danny Kerr. Kerr, of course, earning his 97th cap tonight and could possibly end up earning 100 caps before announcing his retirement from international rugby. A part of the squad in 2015, missed out on in 2019, and now enjoying a World Cup swan song as the backup scrum half, making appearances in all 7 games in England's tournament. And Argentina, though, have a chance to really turn the screw in on England with some great running down the wing. Rubiolo there with the ball going to ground. Kubeli releasing it. No, Bazan Velez rather releasing it. Thomas Gallo now showing some brilliant ball carrying skills. And England still very much making room between the 22 and 5-yard lines respectively. Gonzalez going to ground there. Is that another handling error, or do Argentina still have control of it? They still have control of it. They've cut down their mistakes quite magnificently. De La Fuente coming in to shore things up. And Gallo picking up the ball and moving forward, going to ground. Bazan Velez standing back and deciding to allow some of the bigger players to have their turns at picking the ball and moving forward with it. So you can see a really interesting sequence of play there. This time it's broken with Kubeli releasing it to De La Fuente. I wonder if Argentina might decide to go for a penalty goal to tie it up. But it is Rodrigo Bruni now. And England somehow managed to earn the penalty, but Mike Shaker, who was delighted to see Argentina score that try and then reduce the lead to 3, knows now that Argentina are not too far away from creating a shock, but still being their own worst enemy. Farrell now has a chance to release some pressure by kicking it into touch, and it goes into touch before the halfway line. And it is the Bazan Velez there effectively trying to get the ball, but the ball unable to be released. And we have another change. It is Jamie George coming on for Theodore Dan, who certainly left his impact with that brilliant charge down and try. And Jamie George, the more experienced hooker, will now have responsibility of leading England's lineouts. Good game from the young man. Certainly not desperate down by any means, but very well played indeed, son. Itoje claiming that brilliantly. Ben Earl now with the chance to move forward. Danny Kerr receiving it and hooking it forward. That should be claimed. Ooh, and it is claimed, in fact, by Freddie Stewart, who's risen magnificently. George to Itoje. England now, having had their noses bloodied by Argentina, are on the attack and wanting to score. Still in England ruck. But Argentina claimed the ball, and they earn a penalty, in fact. So we're going to find out what it is. The big man there, Rodrigo Bruni, certainly coming in to really be a destroyer and doing that quite brilliantly. Effectively a turnover. And not the best of kicks, really, from Santi Canizares. And Freddie Stewart has a chance to try to send it into touch himself, but he doesn't do that. And although the bounce is awkward, Bazan Velez does, in fact, claim it and send it quite high. This should be a contestable, easily claimed by England, though. And Marcus Smith says, "That's mine. Thank you very much indeed." A nice chip kick forward, but that is claimed brilliantly on the run back by Bazan Velez, who goes to ground. And it is, in fact, Buffelli who has to perform scrum half duties, releasing that quite brilliantly. Gonzalez now going to ground. And Bazan Velez coming back into the picture. Bazan Velez hooking that into the air. And not well claimed indeed, but eventually... well, you can see right now that the ball is being very heavily contested, and it is, in fact, a penalty to Argentina, with the crime being a knock-on. And we see Georgie Ford coming on to replace Manu Tulagi. Tulagi, another of England's standouts. Fine game for him. And the reliable George Ford, who started England's first few games of the tournament and was kicking really well when Farrell was suspended, now comes on. And have Argentina made a change of their own? Yes, they have. Their captain, Montoya, has gone off to be replaced by the number 16, Creevy. And it might not be long before we see Nicolas Sanchez coming into the picture. Julian Montoya, the Argentina captain, certainly looks knackered at the end of it all. Another fine game from him. And Creevy will come on to see out the remaining 25 minutes. Yeah, confirmation of that substitution. Augustin Creevy coming on and immediately exchanging words with the referee and his counterpart, Jamie George, saying there's something about Jamie George's foot positioning that he's not really fond of. And so Bazan Velez feeding the ball, and it goes through very quickly indeed. Velez trying to kick that, but that is caught brilliantly on the fly. And that is also caught this time by the number 22, Nicolas Sanchez, who's also come onto the field. Certainly the game changer and game winner against Wales in the quarterfinal, and he has a chance to add to his 100-plus caps, as does Creevy. I wonder who Sanchez replaced. We'll find out soon enough. And play still continuing with some more kicking going on. And this time around, Sanchez claiming that quite brilliantly, rising up. And the number 22. And that is another poor piece of play from Argentina there with losing the ball. And can England take advantage of it? Michael Shaker will literally be apoplectic right now in the Argentina dugout, or the technical area, as would be said. Danny Kerr coming in, releasing it. George Ford. Owen Farrell trying to chip it forward, but that should be claimed by Argentina, and it is. Malia saying, "That's mine, boys." And Bazan Velez there coming in, restoring a little bit of order. And kicking it away, but England claim that well, and Freddie Stewart has a chance to start an attack, which he does. Danny Kerr releasing that, and Oliver Chesham going to ground. Danny Kerr once again. This time kicked well high into the air, and the awkward bounce Might have caused a few problems for lesser players, but Nicolas Sanchez says, I've got this, boys. And once again, Bazan Velas there trying to get in. The ball still not quite being released as of yet, but eventually he's got his foot on the ball. And kicked high into the air by Stewart. And Sanchez trying to kick that away, but not really executing that very well. And Joe Marchant claiming that perfectly. And once again, you can see the Argentinian nerves coming to the fore as England are trying to reassert their dominance. George Ford too. Couldn't really see who that was, sadly, but it is Marcus Smith now who aims a beautiful kick forward, but Malia holds on to that and goes into touch. And so with George Ford coming on for Tulagi, Farah will move to number 12, and England and George Ford will be expected to take up fly half duties. And we have another change for Argentina. It is the number 3, Gonzalez, who is going off. Gomez, Codella, rather. And he will be replaced by the number 18, Eduardo Bella. Huge line out won by England, and the maul avoided. And Kerr now passing it to Farrell, who goes to ground. Kerr once again coming in. Itoje. Kerr once again. And it is the number 20, Lewis Ludlam, who goes to ground. England still not quite able to release the ball, but eventually they do. Danny Kerr passing it back. And Argentina now very nearly a turnover, but it is, in fact, a penalty to Argentina. Yeah, a knock-on over there, which has been spotted by the referee. Very nearly a turnover with, I want to say, Gonzalez going to ground. And so it will, in fact, be an Argentina scrum. And Julian Montoya there sitting on the bench with an ice pack attached to his knee. I think he's taken one big hit too many, really. And once again, the scrum ends up being not exactly executed well, but certainly no blame can be attached to Argentina there. And Sanchez had, in fact, come on for the number 10, Carreras. Santi Carreras, that is. So it could very well be that Buffelli will assume full kicking duties, including kickoffs as well, and kicks into touch. But let's not forget Nicolas Sanchez's brilliant play against Wales in the quarterfinal, which pretty much broke Welsh hearts. Another scrum, this time collapsed, but England are able to move with it, and Kerr tries to kick it forward. And, of course, Nick Berry noticing some scrum infringements. Yep, penalty against England for collapsing the scrum. And so with about 16 or so minutes left, it's still very much anyone's game. And actually, there's a penalty rather against Argentina for collapsing the scrum. My bad. And clearly, Mike Shaker's not happy with that. So it's still Owen Farrell doing the kicking. And he has a chance to increase England's lead to 6. What should have been a more comfortable game has now become a little bit more uncomfortable thanks to the enterprise of Argentina in the last few minutes of the first half and the first few minutes of the second. And that try from Theodore Dan is proving all the more important as the match goes on. As it stands, though, England are 26-20 ahead and about 15 minutes away from securing a bronze medal in this World Cup. But Argentina have definitely proven that they are a fine team if they can just cut down their errors. Kickoff, easily claimed by, I think that's Ben Earl, who goes to ground. And we see everyone piling in, trying to help release the ball. And Ben Youngs eventually uses his foot to dig it out. And does he send that into touch? Yes, he does. A little bit of a stat attack for you. Not only is Creevy adding to his multiple caps for Argentina, it's also his 22nd cap for Argentina in a Rugby World Cup, tying second with Jason Leonard of England and Richie McCaw of New Zealand, with only Sam Whitelock ahead on 25 appearances, soon to be 26 tomorrow. And more changes for England coming in. Henry Arundel, who's been a little bit anonymous this game, being replaced by Ollie Lawrence. And Argentina bringing a few of their big guns on as well. Yeah, we see Thomas Gallo coming off for Joel Sclavi and Pedro Rubiolo being replaced by the number 19, Matias Alemano. And the line-out won by Argentina. And they're now going to try and move a little bit forward. Certainly a lot forward, actually. And they're certainly moving very well indeed. Getting ever close to the England goal line, and Creevy coming in and going to ground magnificently. Bazan Velez there, releasing it to Sanchez. This time going in the other direction to Alemano, who's come on as second row. Bazan Velez again to Creevy. We're into phase 5 already. And remember, Argentina, if they can score another converted try, they will be back in the lead. Not too sure that England will be satisfied entirely with this performance if they do end up winning, but, you know, the scoreline does matter at the end of the day. And Nick Berry signalling an offside there, so Argentina do have a penalty and the chance to try to make this territorial advantage count. And instead of kicking for another penalty to further reduce the deficit, it's clear that they're going for the try. Moroni there certainly trying to take it forward. Oh, as it is, in fact, they are in fact going to kick for goal. So it's not Buffelli, it is Nicolas Sanchez who came on for Santi Carreras, who has a chance to reduce the arrears to 3 back again. And he does so. So I stood corrected. I remember thinking that Argentina would want to try to make their territorial advantage count and go for a try, but instead they've opted to they've opted to just bring the score back down and hope that they can try and continue to pile forward. And of course, it is now George Ford who will have the responsibility of kicking off. And he does so. Easily claimed by, I think that was Petty who claimed that. And it is. And it was. So Bazan Velez now with the opportunity to try and release the ball. We're still deep into the Argentina half, but he's able to hook that brilliantly into touch and release a great deal of pressure. And now with the best part of 12 minutes to go, England are only ahead by 3 points. And while Argentina are guilty, in fact, of having made some pretty poor handling errors, they've certainly proven that they are a magnificent, magnificent team. And they played their part in this Titanic final. I'm sure people would not want to see England bottling this one, but we'll see what happens. Jamie George with the line out claimed by Mario Toje. We're into a maul. And it's more of a... It's not exactly a driving maul, with England not being able to make any yardage gains, but Youngs is coming in to try to relieve Jamie George. A little bit of drive, but Kerr now gets the ball and runs forward magnificently, only to be tackled by his counterpart, Bazan Velez. But England now coming in, and it is Lewis Ludlam, the number 20, who releases it. Danny Kerr is back, and he releases that to George Ford, sending what looked like Joe Marchant, I think, over. And is that going to be a penalty for Argentina? I'm not too sure. We'll find out. Actually, that wasn't Joe Marchant. It was Ollie Lawrence who was going forward there with the ball, but had the ball knocked out of his hand. But Mario Toje, once again, outstanding on the lineouts for England. Huge tackle there from Bazan Velez to prevent Danny Kerr moving forward. And you can see the Argentina flags waving quite proudly. 8 handling errors by Argentina to England's 4, and England have also started to show a great deal of nerves over here. And Jamie George just giving his forward pack a little bit of a talking to. And we see David Ribbons coming on, and he replaces Oliver Chesham, who certainly had a really, really powerful, I wouldn't say powerful game, but certainly a very hard, tough game. And you can see his jersey all muddied and bloodied, and his face also completely the color of a beetroot. And the clock has stopped, and we're into the last 10 minutes, so just time for me to go through a few comments. Spurs are, in fact, 2-0 up, game, set, and match. And, yep, Argentina have, in fact, given us a really good game indeed. But 28 missed tackles by England, not a very good statistic if you're coming up against this Argentina team, who definitely like to run with the ball very well indeed, as evidenced by Santi Carreras' brilliant try at the beginning of the second half, rather. So Bazan Velez feeding the ball through, and it goes straight through, and he's able to release that with no fuss. Kick sent forward, but that should be picked up easily by Marcus Smith, who seems to have gotten a little bit better, but hasn't really been necessarily outstanding in his role. Not as outstanding as Stewart has, one would say. More kick ball, this time Georgie Ford under that, and claims that with no fuss. And Ford sends that into touch fairly effortlessly enough. And this isn't very comfortable viewing if you are an England fan, as we see Augustin Creevy going on to take charge of the line-out. easily won by Petty, and we're into a huge driving maul for Argentina. Definitely the impetus gained will serve to be really, really useful. Creevy with the ball in his hand. Bazan Velez urging his experienced player to try and release it. I want to find out if Creevy has actually captained the team, and Bazan Velez trying to pass it back, but Lewis Ludlam there coming in and causing problems. And Argentina do, in fact, win the penalty. Creevy plays his rugby for the Sale Sharks, 38 years of old. Definitely his last international for Argentina, one would say. And of course, he has captained the team on several occasions. Yep, captain, of course, from 2014 to 2018 on many, many occasions, and certainly been one of Argentina rugby's finest ever servants. And scrum won brilliantly. Bruni taking it forward magnificently. Bazan Velez also gaining some brilliant yardage. This is some inspired play from Argentina in the last few minutes of the game. And Sclavi there going to ground. Bazan Velez there to De La Fuente, who's been outstanding, but a fine tackle there, which saw the ball popping out of De La Fuente's hand, or Sanchez's hand, rather. And England being a little bit too aggressive with their tackling from the looks of it. So once again, Ollie Lawrence being a little bit too, impetuous there. Actually, that was Joey Marchant, really. And that did, in fact, it was an attempted pass by Sanchez, which went off Marchant's arm. And now we see more blood being shed. And the Argentina crowd are roaring their team on, hoping that they can somehow manage to steal a win under difficult circumstances. And of course, Nicolas Sanchez is Argentina's all-time leading point scorer with nearly 900 points. In fact, he actually crossed the 900-point barrier with that penalty he scored. So another landmark reached. Several of Argentina's most capped players are in the squad for this tournament. And all Tom Curry can do is look on as Argentina take a scrum with the possibility of gaining more yardage and possibly scoring a try with about 6.5 minutes to go. And some brilliant running there. And Mateo Carreras is almost alone. Rides one tackle brilliantly and goes into another one. And still trying to release the ball. And eventually they do. Sclavi gaining some yardage, going to ground. And still not able to quite release the ball. And that is... well, it is in fact an Argentina penalty. And we're going to find out what the infringement is. Ollie Lawrence once again being penalized for not rolling away. And we see the penalty count from England rising. Just goes to show that the less experience that you have, the less in terms of rugby nows that you have. And this is something that Borthwick's going to have to work on once he starts building a team for the Six Nations after the retirements of Ben Youngs and Courtney Laws. And there might be a few more retirements coming up sooner rather than later. I really don't see Danny Kerr being involved in the next World Cup cycle, but he will stick around to earn his 100th cap, one would think. Mateo Carreras claiming that cleanly, riding Marcus Smith and pushing him aside. And saying, out of my way, son. And it does look as though, in fact, that Sanchez could decide to tie things up with 5 minutes to go. And this is going to be interesting because if it does end all square at the end of regulation, could we perhaps see a tiebreaker, extra time? We might possibly, yes. Sanchez, of course, having scored 902. Can he make this 905? No, he can't. He completely misses it. And not the best chance to take with 5 minutes to go. So you could see the disappointment on the faces of the Argentinians. Not the best gamble to take. Brilliant work there from Mateo Carreras once again. And one would think that by trying to move forward and take up more time, Argentina would have given themselves the advantage. But instead, England have the ball back and George Ford has the chance to kick that away. Instead, he ends up kicking it back to the Argentinians, Marcos Kremer. And then Sanchez kicks it high in the air. Brilliantly claimed by Buffelli once again on the second attempt. And Augustin Creevy now moving forward with the ball, going to ground. Bazan Velez releasing that. And more Argentinian pressure. Mateo Carreras, once again, outstanding. Bazan Velez. Releasing that to Bello, I think. And now Velez once again taking that to Sanchez. We're into phase 5 of this ruck. Argentina still 3 points behind England. And it could very well be that Argentina might have the final say on what happens in this match because we are now down to the last 3.5 minutes. De La Fuente. Bazan Velez. Petty. Sanchez. Malia. Gonzalez. And that is, in fact, a knock-on. And you've got to say that that chance has now gone begging. So England have a chance now to try and move forward and release some pressure or maybe seal the match by themselves. But the kick by it was probably that errant pass which was considered a knock-on, and Creevy and Bazan Velez giving the referee a bit of a talking to. Creevy, of course, having captained Argentina for 4 years from 2014 to 2018. Still very much a big presence in the Argentina lineup. Down to the last 3 minutes exactly. This is where cool heads will prevail. It never should have gotten this close for England, and they know it. And Bazanvela is now literally barking orders at his front at his pack to try and make sure that they get it together and hold their own. Danny Kerr now, all the experience of his 97 caps. And once again, the scrum is collapsed. And mercifully, the clock has in fact been stopped. Yeah, this is really cynical play from England. You do not want to see them collapsing the scrum like that. And Michael Shaker is not a happy chappy. So Kerr feeds it in. And this time the scrum eventually holds firm, released by Kerr and sent forward, but easily claimed on the fly. And Argentina have a chance to run out England through Buffelli once again, who has literally once again been outstanding tonight. And Mateo Carreras there. Some lethal speed down the left wing as he pushes forward. Brilliant stuff from the number 11. Bazan Velez. Into the last 2 minutes. This is squeaky backside time for England. Bellowing forward. Sanchez. De La Fuente. Claimed eventually by Buffelli, who is sent to ground. And eventually loses the ball in a turnover, so that will relieve some pressure as far as England are concerned. But once again, Argentina really showing that when they can cut out the errors and really start running, they are truly a fine team. But Mick Berry stopped play, and we're going to find out what's going on here. It looks as though Creevy's taken a very serious knock. At the age of 38, you think this could very well be his last dance for the Argentinian team. Rodrigo Bruni there with a bruising tackle against Farrell. Pass from Bazan Velez to Alemano. And then how about this for sheer speed from Mateo Carreras? Well, it's all happening out there at the Stade de France, and the match is coming to a huge conclusion with both teams having given their all in what has been a brilliant encounter. If any of you were expecting a straightforward England win, you've been disappointed. But if any neutrals wanted to see a brilliant game of rugby played with nothing but passion and grit and determination, you got exactly what you wanted. The error count has been a little bit too high for people's liking, but other than that, it's just been an amazing game of rugby. And as always, it's been an absolute treat to have brought this to you with my amateurish commentary. And Julian Montoya with his bib looking on. That's all he can do. We are down to the last 80 seconds of play. And basically Argentina's front row forcing a scrum collapse there. Clearly, with Sclavi, Creevy, and Bello coming on, they've lent a great deal of heft to the to the front row. And Nick Berry saying, "Come on, lads, we cannot allow the scrum to continue being collapsed like this." So Danny Kerr to take the scrum, feeding it through. This could very well be the last play. And England, of course, end up getting the ball and trying to work with it down to the last 30 seconds. You get the sense that this is, in fact, game over for Argentina. That missed Nicolas Sanchez penalty will go down as the moment when the match was probably lost by Argentina. Could have sent it to extra time. Instead, it won't be long now before England secure their spot as third place winners in the Rugby World Cup and win the bronze medal. But credit once again to Argentina. They've provided an absolutely magnificent opposition. And Nick Berry has, in fact, signaled that the game is over. And with that, this is the full-time score. Not a very convincing win as far as England are concerned, but certainly a nice way to end the international careers of Ben Youngs and Courtney Laws. Certainly been a rather torrid, must be said, last few weeks for England prior to the tournament, written off by almost everyone. The disappointment on Augustin Creevy's face as he receives the commiserations and congratulations from his England counterparts. And you can tell that he has been a magnificent servant of Argentinian rugby, still plying his trade in the Premiership back in England. The full-time score is now England 26, Argentina 23, and here is the headline. England hold on to beat Argentina by 3 points and win the bronze medal at the 2023 Rugby World Cup. I do not know if we will see the presentation ceremony. In fact, with the disappearance of the live icon, it seems that we won't. Hopefully, we will have better sense to see the crowning of the world champions tomorrow. But any more comments? Yep, certainly been a good game, Chelsea fan, and a good stream. Thank you very much indeed. And Shu's saying definitely the wrong decision to go to the posts. Should have gone for the try. Completely agree with you. Sanchez missing that clearly was the thing which really ended up being a dagger to the hearts of the Argentinians. But, they say the winner takes it all. The loser ends up standing small. But this is, of course, the headline, and I will be waiting for Hanno to come back on. Of course, the penalty was out wide and definitely not easy, and it was never going to be the best of decisions, especially if Sanchez had missed it. And in fact, he did pull it wide. A kick to the corner, and they could potentially have won the game. And some more highlights, of course, with England winning a penalty with the play getting over. And that, of course, was that. Finished third after a bad Six Nations, showing that England are indeed coming back. Chelsea fan agreeing that they never should have gone to the posts. And just received a message from Hanno that he might probably not be coming back. So, yeah, I think we will end the stream right now. And just want to say once again, oops, wrong one. But we will, of course, end the stream in due course. And just want to say once again that it's been an absolute delight to have brought coverage of the Rugby World Cup to you. Over here in India, I wasn't going to get really that much in terms of detailed coverage and analysis, but I did get to see the games live, and that is really, something that makes me quite happy, even if rugby won't necessarily be very popular over here in this neck of the woods. But you never know, maybe things can change. Maybe for the Lions series we could end up getting coverage from Sony Sports Network or some other big series. You just don't know. But these days, if you want to watch rugby, as I've said, you will need to get a special broadcasting service over here, which is not available on other with other services here. But look, it is what it is, and I'm glad to have watched these games. I'm especially glad to have seen this one. I was expecting a very comfortable England win. I did predict them to win by 22. Fat lot of good, that did me. But tomorrow's final, of course, will be the big one, the Saturday blockbuster. And easily the two best teams in the tournament. I mean, two of the best four teams, Ireland and France, tragically losing in the qualifiers. A huge travesty that those four teams would have to face off against each other in the quarterfinal stage. And I did, in fact, predict that the world champion would be one of those four teams, and that prediction has, in fact, come true, regardless of whether New Zealand or South Africa lift the Webb Ellis Cup. And, of course, both teams are gunning for the glory of being the first ever four-time champions of the tournament. South Africa aiming to defend their title, but a resurgent New Zealand coming back stronger than ever. It will be a match to savor, and I'm sure that Hanno will be looking to start a stream tomorrow with a full preview, and there will be plenty of analysis. And of course, you'll have my amateurish commentary, as I've said, taking you through the final as we go through all the players and all the plays and all the thrills and all the spills. And there is no way, I'm sure, that Sony Sports will be that crass as to deny me the pleasure of seeing the world champions being crowned. But it is what it is. Thanks again to everyone in the chat who's joined in, the likes of Taz Reynolds, Chelsea fan, Shoosh, and a few others. If I've missed any of you, Stepsy Hatter coming in, and haven't missed anyone. You're the ones who have, of course, made this channel this stream what it has been. And this is, of course, the headline with the full-time score being Argentina 23, England 26. England holding on by the skin of their teeth to beat Argentina and winning the, not the bros medal. Bronze medal. Well, that was that. And once again, the ticker is, of course, running. Do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell button for notifications. Do catch Hanno on his social media handles, Hanno_coach_corner on Instagram. That is Hanno70830030 on Twitter, and Coach's Corner 1 on TikTok. And as for me, you can catch me here on the Coach's Corner and several other channels on YouTube. Catch me at Manny Thangadurai 1981 on Instagram and Threads, and Thangadurai 1981 on Twitter. And without further ado, let me say thank you all for joining in. A few more comments coming in. I will just read them out quickly. And thank you very much indeed for the stream. Good evening and good night. And we will, of course, see you all for the final tomorrow. For now, though, let me just say thank you all very much again. And I bid you all goodbye, farewell, adieu, and God bless.